press the button. It's moved right now.
Yeah. You'll see it's like flashing if you... Yeah. All right. I think we'll get started in a few minutes. If anyone hasn't already, please scan the QR code. What's up?
Test. 1 2 1 2. Sitting. Hey.
Is the volume good for both of us? Do you want either of us to like? Awesome.
Is there any feedback where it's picking up both of us on one mic? Okay.
Is this good? This is better? Awesome.
Perfect. Absolutely.
The porcelain throne.
Oh my god. That's hideous. I love it.
I don't know.
That's what I was thinking, though.
Sitting on my high horse.
Sitting on my horse high.
My
See if I fall off right there. Don't ride your horse. Don't drive under the influence.
It's just like I just have this like image in my head now where like I'm like horsing over like under the influence. Because like I know like the cops in New York, like they also, oh god, oh good lord.
You lose your balance.
I think I would get like kicked off or something before I lost my balance, quite frankly.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I remember when I was a kid, I went horseback riding like once
as
ever.
long as that's where you're going with that.
What's up?
As long as you're going with that part of the story. As in, like, as opposed to the other part.
Oh, like that.
Like as a kid, like.
As a kid, as a kid,
Okay, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I used to I say that like I did that more than once. I went horseback riding once.
Same.
It's kind of fun.
I was allergic to horses.
What's up?
Same, but I had an allergic reaction to the horse.
Oh god.
It's 2:38.
I think we've got a good audience.
Yes.
Has everybody signed in to attendance? Yes.
Will we get access to the free DLC if we attend? Do we get the expansion pack?
I mean, the game's not even out yet, so.
Beta testing.
The demo is available.
The demo will also be at IGDX 2026 this year. You'll get to speak to the dev and play the demo there if you're interested.
Demo's gonna be premiered there?
Not premiering.
It's the pre-alpha, really. The small demo. It's like takes like 30 minutes to beat.
Is it like the same version as what you got to show at like AwesomeCon, or is it like?
It is the same version as AwesomeCon. Yes.
Hell yeah. I definitely got to ask about that.
What is that?
I can't wait to speedrun it. Gonna put my record up.
It's my world record, my Commanders of the Wicked world record. All right, everybody. We ready to get started? Woo! Wait. First off. Welcome. First off, I want to start with, this is a jazz club for today. Our esteemed guest speaker has Tourette's and clapping is a trigger, so instead, if we could snap. Thank you very much. Also, this is more fun if you ask me, in my personal opinion. Hit a little like jazz tune, that 4/4. It's fun. It's fun.
I can do it twice in one hand.
What's up?
I do it twice in one hand in sequence.
Oh, because you can do like both, right? I've never been. I can like almost do it.
Yeah.
I've never been able to figure it out. Alrighty. With that aside, welcome everybody to IGDA. Can we get a round of snap applause? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Today we will be doing a guest lecture interview with none other than David, our very own David, developer of Commanders of the Wicked. But before we begin, in traditional IGDA fashion, who will you choose? Will you choose the Porcupine? Will you choose the Laugher? Or will you choose the Mosquito? That is from left to right. I believe this is also the same order they're in the game.
Yes.
Who will you choose? Who votes for the Porcupine on the left?
You got 3 picks, I see.
Who votes for the Laugher in the middle? Yeah, he's got my vote.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Mike
5,
Tuzowski,
6,
I call him.
7, 8, 9. Okay, that's.
No, he's better. He's IKEA Wazowski. He's better. Think about it.
The next evolution.
Exactly. What's better than 1? 2. Think about it. And who votes for the Mosquito? Ah, we got a lot of Mosquito fans in the air. Very nice.
6, 7, 8, 9. Tied.
Ooh, it's tied. All right, all right.
I'm wearing him on my shirt.
It is a nice shirt. It's a nice color palette. I like that shade of purple. It's very nice.
Nice mage purple.
Are you going to be selling that as merch?
No. This is just for me to wear at events. I can't afford to get shirts printed.
For now.
For
Yet. For now.
The game hits off.
Alrighty, everybody. We'll get started. This is our guest workshop. Before we begin, a couple of announcements. We will have a Q&A at the end of this. If you guys want to scan this QR code, this is how we will be fielding questions for this event. I'll also flip back to this later at the end of the show, if you guys want to ask questions using this form. Other than that, a few announcements. I got to go through these slowly so we can get a look at all of the different fiends on show. IGDX is next Friday. That is the Student Games Expo here at NJIT. If you guys would love to see student games, eat some food, we've got it all at IGDX 2026. Pull up, invite your friends from off campus, even if they're not NJIT students, they're welcome because we are an open campus here at NJIT. Anyone who's online, if you would like to check it out. Our very own David will be at IGDX 2026. So if you guys want to try out Commanders of the Wicked in person and get to talk to the developer at the same time, come to IGDX 2026. Presenters, anyone who's going to be presenting for IGDX, including yourself. You might have gotten an email from me recently about visitor parking, so just let me know about that, and we should be able to try to help you out with that. Other than that, this is our suite of upcoming events. We've got the Student Games Mixed Bracket next Wednesday. The following Wednesday after that, we're doing Actually, and then we've got a Day of Street Pass at the end of the semester. It's like our end of semester party. Whoa, what was that? Oh no, the sound didn't play. Hold on. What was that? All right, without further ado, we begin our interview with David Gustavson, developer of... Oh, Gustavson, sorry. Thank you for the correction. Gustavson.
Yes.
Third time's the charm.
Yes, third time's the charm.
The developer of Commanders of the Wicked. So as a quick overview, for those of you who don't know who David is an NJIT alumni, a game programmer and a 3D modeler, the developer of Commanders of the Wicked. He has presented his games at various places, such as AwesomeCon this year and IGDX in the past. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Here, I wasn't expecting to come to myself there.
Oh,
I graduated from NJIT in 2023, on December, really. I've always been making games since I was a little kid. I really always loved just creating fun experiences in games. I don't know what to say about myself there.
Well, if I may, let's talk a little bit about Commanders of the Wicked, because I know that's been your big project as of late, right?
Yes.
How long have you been working on it, first of all?
I've been working on it for this iteration, I've been working on it for almost 2 years now. It was, I believe, May or June of 2024 that I started really working on this version of the game.
And where did the idea for it come from in the first place?
The main inspirations for the game were the Dragon Quest Monsters games, if you're familiar with those spin-offs of the big JRPG series Dragon Quest. Those are definitely my biggest inspirations for the game. Most people try to compare the game to Pokemon, but ultimately there are some major differences between the main inspiration and Pokemon. And I actually originally started working on this game as a class project. And I've since expanded from that. It's been completely reworked since then.
Oh, interesting. And this is, I assume this is a project you had to work on at NJIT for like a class year?
Yes, that was, it was for a 2D game programming class.
Would you say that this is your dream game?
I would not say this is my dream game, actually. I would say that's something that I've been putting off, that I'm going to work on much later in life.
Well, folks, be on the lookout for that. So then, what got you into game development in the first place?
I've been heavily inspired by certain developers over the course of my life. The way I like to phrase it is Yuji Horii, the creator of Dragon Quest, showed me to the door. He didn't actually literally show me to the door. It's like figure speech. Scott Cawthon opened the door, and Toby Fox threw me into the door and locked the key behind me.
Oh, if we could speak up a little bit for the folks in the back.
My apologies. The way I usually phrase it is Yuji Horii showed me to the door. Scott Cawthon opened the door, and Toby Fox threw me in through the door and locked the door behind me.
Oh, so I take it these are your big inspirations for making games.
At least become a developer itself.
I see. Very interesting. And so, when you got to college, it seems like you continued to work on yourself as a game developer throughout here, right? What were some ways you got to do that over the course of college?
I got to make various prototypes for different classes. I definitely really enjoyed working on those. I do have a lot of fond memories of working on these projects at NJIT. And yeah, I'd say that's ultimately a big thing is being able to experience creating games as well as also networking here at IGDA.
Oh,
As some of my fond memories are also from here as well.
did you ever get to work on projects on your own time, or maybe for game jams and whatever?
Yes, I actually participated in a few game jams here at NJIT over the years. My first one actually was my first semester here. Me and a friend, we were working on a game. We didn't finish it in time, unfortunately, but we did get the most polished of anyone there. It was a game focused on escaping your pets as they transform into monsters.
Ooh, interesting. Oh, I feel like I've. Do you remember what it was called?
Frenzy.
Frenzy, I assume.
No, Frenzy, just the word Frenzy.
Gotcha. Frenzy.
No, not this time. I thought of the pun there.
I know you told me you were a big fan of making puns like that.
Yes.
How does that sort of work into? Does that work into like your storytelling style or your personal style?
It definitely impacts the creature design. I love to create creatures based on puns and such. In fact, the rabbit creature that was on the previous slide, that was something called a despair, as in like despair.
Let's get a look at that despair.
I try to make him look almost like a. I don't know how to put it, but I put.
It almost looks as evil as my rabbit.
It did take inspiration from like the Killer Bunny from My Python: The Holy Grail, but all including its wicked appearance, and but I had it have its ear covering its eye, kind of like the stereotypical emo kid at a high school.
Oh, it's got that streak
Like
of head covering his eye.
The bangs covering its eye, and it actually flips it up when it does a spellcasting animation.
Mom, it's not a face. These horns make me look cool.
Exactly.
I see the vision. I think a lot of us are curious about that because I see you have a bunch of these fiends up on display here. Could you tell us a little bit more about what inspires some of these designs? I know the inspiration for Commanders of the Wicked was Dragon Quest. Does that play into your fiend design at all? Like, what's your general philosophy for designing these?
My general philosophy is to think of either puns first or what would make an interesting hybrid.
Could you tell us a little more about that?
There are some things that are more. Some creatures in the game are more like they have more generic names, but there are the ideas of combining things to make essentially a chimera of sorts. It's usually that or a pun or both. Some of them are both.
It's like a little hybrid of like puns that
That's
came out to be kind of
a pun name for a hybrid monster.
I see.
For example, Borcupine.
It's a boar-cupine.
Yes,
I see.
It's a boar with quills. So he's like a boar and a porcupine mashed together and has wordplay for the name.
I'm curious. So now I'm a little curious because how many fiends do you have in your game as of now?
I currently have a bestiary planned of 58 fiends total.
Whew, very nice. What was the first fiend that you made for your bestiary?
Oh, that's a tough one. See, it did date back to its college project days. I think my first one might have actually been. I'm not sure. I have a selection of some that were from like the first generation of the game, essentially. But honestly, the first one that might be the Jelly, which is this little blob creature here with 3 eyes. It's
It's
a
a
pun.
jelly
Yeah, like jelly with eyes.
with
And
eyes.
Jelly.
It's a and has your sort of style in terms of making these fiends, has this sort of like evolved over time? Has it evolved as a reflection of, I don't know, changing tastes or getting better at at
Yes.
modeling?
Some of the creatures actually had major, as they say, glow ups during the course of development. The Galvanite in particular went from being like a static old pixel art knight with just holding a spear to the glowing suit armor that was at the start of the slideshow.
Interesting. You mentioned pixel art as like the original. So what's your general process for getting from like the idea of a fiend to, these actual models that we see here? Like where does it all begin?
Well, it usually starts with kind of a pun, usually
Mhm.
pun or a chimera idea, and then what I usually do is I sketch out on my tablet, and then I take the sketches, boot up Blender, and work from there. I do take creative liberties from 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 concept to sketch to models. I don't always follow the sketches one to one. That usually doesn't work usually for me actually.
Interesting.
I'm not. I admit I'm not the best artist when it comes to two-dimensional art. I definitely thrive more in a 3D setting. It's easier for me to get proportions down that way.
So the sort of the 2D art almost gives you a little bit of structure to work with before you bring it to 3D.
It helps me get my ideas on paper.
I see, I
I do
see.
digitally, so it's not really on paper. But
In case anybody out there is curious, because you mentioned you also sketch your models first. I do want to talk a little bit about your experience with Blender, but beforehand, you mentioned you sketch your models first. What software do you use, or what?
I use Procreate on iPad. That is my art program of choice for or drawing on my iPad essentially.
Okay,
And it's
gotcha.
more portable that way. That I can take it places, or so if I feel inspired, I can just take out and doodle themed real quick.
I see. And does that how often do you find yourself getting like inspiration or ideas just kind of spontaneously? Like how often has that helped you personally in terms of coming up with these fiend designs?
I wish it happened more often. Actually,
Hmm.
it usually happens like for a moment when I'm inspired by some sort of external stimulus, like a song or something that in a video game that I'm playing, for example, or happens as I'm falling asleep. In each of those cases, it's usually not something I just drop and pick up the pen essentially.
I
And
see.
I do have a tendency to lose inspiration in by the time I get my iPad out, unfortunately.
It's like waking up from a dream. It's like it's
Exactly.
there for a moment and then
Just fleeting. I try to take advantage of it when I can, though.
it's like when you like fail to recruit a fiend. Oh no, they don't run away in the game,
They
right?
don't run away now.
You get a few more. You get a few more. I wish those ideas didn't run away. Let's talk a little bit about the actual like 3D modeling part of it. You mentioned you use Blender to 3D model. Did you always use Blender for 3D modeling or making 3D models?
uh, when I choose to use what I use, yes, I always use Blender is my 3D modeling software of choice. I did have to use Maya for a class in NJIT. However, I didn't really like using Maya.
What
Plus, I can't afford Maya anyway on my own. Anyway, it's crazy expensive.
Interesting. So what about Blender makes it particular aside from, the price point? I know Blender's the free software, Maya's the premium version of that. And I know like we have a good mix of students, especially the digital design students to my understanding, they typically use Maya for their modeling. So what about Blender specifically like drew you to it or made you prefer Blender over Maya?
It ran on my laptop without crashing as much.
That's fair.
That's ultimately the big thing besides prices. It will run reliably for me.
And how did you get started with Blender?
In preparation for that 3 modeling class I took, I installed Blender because I thought that's what we'd be using.
Hmm.
It turns out I wasn't. And I started tinkering around with it. I made a few monster designs in there, and I picked up pretty quickly, I think.
How do you practice it actively, or how do you like work on your modeling skills?
Honestly, working on this game has been a big help with that. Cause I experiment with different themes, and I have to learn how to model different things. and I learn a lot from the process.
I take it you've pretty much learned everything within the process. I mean, you have to model, you have to texture, you have to rig everything.
While I have done everything, I haven't learned everything there is to know about Blender yet. I'm still learning things, and honestly, this whole game is a huge learning experience for me.
Interesting. Do you have any sort of advice for any aspiring modelers in the crowd out there who might be interested in picking it up?
Honestly, I would say use reference. That is honestly the best way you can learn. Find good tutorials online for things you don't know how to do yet, and honestly, just keep practicing. Good practice makes perfect, I'd say.
And would you recommend sort of making a game as kind of practice for that? Because I know some of us are probably interested in, art by trade, and some of us are probably more interested in, you know, learning for the sake of making a game, right? So do you find that making a game is a good environment to be able to pick up 3D modeling regardless of where you're coming from?
I would say it depends on where you're coming from as far as like what experience you have already. Jumping straight into modeling for game development is probably a bad idea. I would say start with making, like, say, props first, or like a simple rigged creature or person, uh, and without having to worry about animating it yet.
Yeah.
Start small, work from there, develop your skills.
All right. I want to talk a little bit more about the Commanders of the Wicked. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yes.
So you mentioned you've been working on at least this present iteration for 2 years. What do you mean by current iteration? Oh, because the first iteration was the one you made for a project, right?
First iteration was the school version. Second version was in Unreal Engine, and that didn't last very long because I was working on other stuff at the time. And this is the third iteration. Third time's a charm, as I say.
Third time's the charm. That seems to be a recurring pattern here.
Yes.
If I may, how did you get right into working on Commanders of the Wicked after your class project?
No. That class project was, I believe, I think maybe about a year before I graduated. I was actually working on another game before Commanders of the Wicked that is currently on standby. So once I'm done Commanders of the Wicked and made a small game after that, I can resume that project.
Interesting. Sorry, I'm blanking.
No worries.
So then, so I assume like it took a little bit after you made Commanders of the Wicked as your sort of, I assume, like initial prototype for a class, and then you came back to it later in Unreal. So what made you come back to it?
Ultimately, it was the prior game I was working on that I was starting to get really burnt out from. And ultimately, I needed something that was a bit more fun to work on.
Interesting. Okay. What about working on Commanders of the Wicked makes it so fun for you in particular?
Honestly, I'd say kind of having to come up with this many creatures is exciting for me. I've always loved creating creatures as well. Probably longer than I've been making games, I've been making monsters.
Interesting. Are you planning on? Is this roster sort of expanding as you go?
I'm trying to keep it fixed, keep scope relatively small, just so I can get the game out on time. If there is good enough reception, I can't make any promises right now, but I might consider expanding Bestiary later.
Oh. So it's all very like reflective of this is the part of game development you enjoy the most, sort of the creation of little.
The creation of creatures essentially is, and what they can do is ultimately some of my favorite things to do.
Interesting, and that's sort of what drew you back in the second time, right?
Second and third, yes.
So I assume after everything with Unreal, so you mentioned you got busy. Did you get, like, at what point did you start working on it the third time after that?
The third time was just wanting to come back to this project. It's one of my stronger ideas, I'd say, for a game. Not my strongest story yet. I'm still trying to iron out some kinks there. But as far as a game concept, I'd say this is probably one of my stronger ones. And it's also just fun to work on.
Of course, kind of help with the burnout from the last project, right? All good. All right. So the second time you mentioned you worked in Unreal, right?
Yes.
What are you working on it now? Or what engine are you using to work on it now?
I'm currently using Unity. Currently Unity 6, I believe.
And why'd you switch over?
I have more experience with Unity, and ultimately Unreal was becoming a bit of too much of a learning curve to actually make a solid game out of at the time.
How long have you been working on Unity?
I've been using Unity as an engine, not necessarily for this project, but in general, I've been using it since, I'm trying to think of the year, 2020, I think.
And how'd you get started with that?
A class at NJIT. We had to pick up Unity. I picked it up and I ran with it.
Interesting. What do you like about Unity? What aside from familiarity, was there are there other reasons you might be sticking with Unity?
It runs on my computer.
That makes sense.
And it primarily uses a language I'm more familiar with, being C#. I definitely, I don't know what this. I just blanked a little bit there.
Sorry.
I do. It's mostly experience in the fact that it runs on my computer. That is the big thing.
Kind of deciding factor.
I noticed when I was using Unreal Engine, the fans on my laptop would just be blaring and be distracting
start
other
ticking
people in the room.
off.
Yeah, pretty much.
I've definitely heard that's like kind of a common thing with Unreal Engine. It really has more like hardware requirements.
Yes.
Are there any things that Unity doesn't quite get right for you? Are there any things you wish it did as an engine?
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
All right. So for the most part, it's been very like technically serviceable, at least for the development of this.
For me.
Sorry?
It's been very cooperative.
Very cool. How do you feel about like the newer versions of Unity? I mean, you said you started with Unity 2000, but it's kind of changed over time up till now with Unity 6.
I'm definitely happy with most of the changes I've seen.
So it's been pretty consistent over like the time you've worked with it so far, right?
Not necessarily consistent, but it's made changes for the better, I'd say.
I see.
As far as like the engine itself.
Okay. Let me think of a couple more questions. So this is the third iteration now of Commanders of the Wicked. What did it look like in the earlier iterations?
In the earliest iterations, it was just a pixel art, kind of Game Boy Color style game.
Oh, so was it even a 3D game by that point?
It was not 3D in the very first iteration. Back in the class version, it was very heavily just pixel art, static images. There wasn't even like animated themes yet.
So how much of the like the earlier versions of the project does the current version kind of retain?
Only the themes themselves that were in the original version.
Oh, so
they have had major glow-ups. As case things such as Galvanite and Porcupine, they look much better in 3D than they did in 2D.
Oh, so what about like gameplay-wise? Has that kind of stayed the same all throughout, or is that evolved as you continue to work on it?
I'd say. Some of the parts are similar, like the general combat system is very similar, but ultimately a lot of stuff has changed for the better.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about like, for people who aren't aware, can you tell us like a little bit about the game Commanders of the Wicked? Like, what is Commanders of the Wicked?
Sure. Commanders of the Wicked is an upcoming monster collector RPG. It allows players to battle, tame, and fuse fiends together, and allows you to build an impressive menagerie of the mightiest monsters known to man.
Such as these monsters right here.
Yes. Little fiends here.
If I may, so I assume like the creature collector component that definitely came from Dragon Quest Monsters, right?
Yes.
How heavily inspired is Commanders of the Wicked by sort of Dragon Quest? Did you pull some aspects of gameplay? Did you pull some aspects of like the theming?
The combat system is very similar to Dragon Quest Monsters. I am trying to make it more different as I can. The story works rather differently. For one, actually, I can't really get into the story, really.
Oh, no spoilers! No spoilers!
No spoilers! I will say that
Story. That is a spoiler.
there is a story, yes, but I will say this story is not necessarily for mature audiences, but it's more like a T for teen story. I'd say has some dark themes that go on with it, especially later on in the story. Honestly, it might be E10 plus safe, but I'm not completely sure at this stage in development.
I see. It's like fairly early on, especially for the narrative.
Also, I'd say my conservative guess would be more T for teen story. Again, it gets a bit dark near the end.
What's your general theming for the game as a whole? Like, what are you kind of aiming for in terms of a design philosophy?
As far as that goes, I'm trying to reflect how the story goes there. So, but I mean, it starts like a little uncanny in the sense of like it's got whimsy, but it's not overly cheerful.
Okay.
Like it's not like in your face bubblegum and rainbows sort of thing. It's more of it's not Pokemon. I'll just put it that way.
Would you describe it as more of like a dark fantasy type of ordeal?
Not dark fantasy. It gets somewhere in between the two, I'd say.
Okay,
Like,
so
like on the scale of like Pokemon to Shin Megami Tensei, I'd say it's somewhere in the middle.
okay. What's your without delving too much into the story, what was your sort of hope to accomplish with the story? Are you trying to convey a theme or convey some sort of message?
Yes, I do have some themes and messages I do have planned for the story. There is a focus. Granted, the main character and certain other major NPCs are in like a high school setting and during a summer break. And there is moments reflecting bullying and retaliation to bullying.
I see. And this, well, let me think of my question. Was there sort of like what was the sort of inspiration for that story? Was there a reason you wanted to tell that story?
It's mostly just my distaste with a sort of like bully culture,
Hmm.
where the idea of like the strong dominate the weak is something I've never really vibed with, sort of.
It was sort of something you wanted to hopefully kind of push back against
Yeah,
with
essentially,
your
yeah.
narrative.
Mhm.
What's your writing process look like, if I may ask?
Writing is not my strongest suit, and I'm definitely trying to actively improve on that. But my writing process for a story generally starts with a PowerPoint presentation. Not necessarily to be present, but like to outline. My outlines are done in Google Slides.
I see, and that's sort of like you use the tooling to structure
Yes.
what you want to hit with your narrative, and then you kind of write from there.
Yes.
Would you say that Commanders of the Wicked has made you a better writer over time?
I would say it has made me somewhat of a better writer, and it
Ooh.
is making me a better writer. I'd say. Again, big learning experience.
All right, I think enough of the narrative for now.
Sure.
Before we, no spoilers, right?
Yes,
if
no
you guys want to,
spoilers, yes.
if you guys want to see the story, play the game
When it's out.
when it's. I think I might have a little footage, at least from the Everybody Votes slides, queued up, so we can take a look at it in a moment. But let's get back to the development of it. Let me think of my next question. So, what's your general? So it's an RPG type of game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Turn-based.
Turn-based, yes. Turn-based with teams.
What was your sort of philosophy for designing like mechanics for this? Because I know we have a lot of people who are interested in like RPG design. A lot of people who think a lot about like turn-based mechanics and what mechanics feel satisfying or fun. So what was your sort of like philosophy? Do you have a sort of idea that you want to encapsulate with your mechanics?
Can you repeat that last part?
Did you have a certain idea you wanted to encapsulate with your mechanics? Was there a particular mechanic that intrigued you?
Ultimately, I have trouble balancing things. I'm still working on that. But I am my big. But as a result, the biggest part I find for designing mechanics and stuff is to experiment and reiterate.
Okay.
So as I'm designing mechanics, I have to tweak them essentially as I find things are completely unbalanced, and I have to tweak them immensely. There are certain especially in combat, there are a lot of mechanics that are interesting, I'd say. One of them is a signature skill that Mosquito learns. Leech Link is a draining life move, and getting it to do reasonable damage and healing was a little bit of a challenge.
I see. So it seemed if I'm understanding correctly, it's like you have sort of the turn-based template, and you kind of iterate on that by coming up with different ideas and moves that are interesting. I assume like different abilities and moves that work well with the sort of turn-based environment.
Especially when designing the moves that each fiend can learn, because each fiend species, for the most part, has 3 innate moves they can learn as they develop, and picking which moves they learn was a challenge in some instances. Ultimately, I go based on the creature's anatomy and what would make sense for its class.
So it's all wrapped nicely within that sort of fiend designing process. Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. So I assume the sort of the focus of your game as an RPG is very much cohesiveness with the different fiends. Like
Creating
they're
balance
sort of
party is essential.
okay. Interesting. Interesting. Um, I want to talk a little bit more about sort of where Commanders of the Wicked is now.
Yes.
So it seems like Commanders of the Wicked has kind of evolved a lot over time. My understanding is how recently have you started advertising or sort of marketing this game to people? Like, when did you start publicizing Commanders of the Wicked as a
I started publicize. Well, I started public. I'm still in the early stages of publicizing the game. I have taken it to a few small conventions and one large convention so far, where it usually gets rather positive reception, and uh, I actually have some social media pages that I still need to post on.
Okay, I want to get to the. I'll get to the large convention in a minute, but you mentioned you've been to a bunch of like smaller conventions. How do you? Can you like name a few like conventions that you like? What scale are we talking on typically when we?
Well, I say the smallest public convention I've been to was probably IGDX last year.
Hmm.
I also went to like a small medium-sized convention at Cincinnati University for Cyclone Con last year.
Okay, so
And
sorry.
I no, you,
So these tend to be like they're still like full convention hall like formats. People come in, take a look at all the games. How do you typically find these events to showcase at?
I usually through word of mouth. I do dig for events myself, but I tend to not find them in time. Uh, However, I do have some people I've networked with that do let each other know when there's conventions coming up and what the registration process looks like.
And I assume going to more and more conventions has kind of helped you build that network over
It
time.
has, yes.
Um, are there any other methods you use to sort of publicize your games? Like, are there other places you try to go to, or sort of other sort of events?
This isn't. I don't know if this counts as publicizing, but I have joined this group for game developers based in New Jersey, and I do bring my game and excuse me. I do bring what I'm working on there to showcase and get feedback there. And actually, it's one of the people from that group is where I usually find out when there's events.
Interesting. This is for New Jersey game developers.
Primarily, yes. There are also some people who show up from places like New York.
And how did you find this group in the first place?
Actually, I originally found out about it from another student at NJIT who told me about it at one point, like shortly before graduating.
I see. Would you sort of recommend joining these communities as a way to sort of reach out and branch out a little?
Absolutely. I would highly recommend finding more networking groups. It's great for feedback, and it allows you to essentially network more and get more advice on what to do and how to go forward.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the big con now. I take it that
Yes.
was Awesome Con, right?
That was Awesome Con, yes, in Washington D.C. back in March of this year.
So when did you hear about it in the first place?
I heard about it, I believe, I can't remember when I first heard about it, but it was at some point. Actually, I can't remember. It was either sometime really early this year or like late last year.
And this con was held around when?
Uh, uh, March 13th through 15th.
Oh, so just a few weeks ago, yeah.
Yes.
All right. How was that experience? How was it showcasing there?
It was exhilarating. There's a lot of people who played the game. I believe the game got, I think it called 72 or 73 plays, including some people who came back multiple times.
Nice.
It was a great experience. I learned a lot about the showcase experience because it's my first big convention I went to.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about what that was like, kind of preparing for it and actually being at the showcase?
is great to bring people with you. I should have brought someone with me to stay at the table the whole time with me. But as a solo developer, didn't really have much option there. Um, uh, Networking with your table neighbors is great, and honestly, just try to have fun. It's a great experience. You should be able to learn from people who are playing your game, learn what they like, what they don't like, and work from there.
Do you still talk to any of the folks you met there?
I haven't been in tight conversation with them, but I've had this one developer there who started following me on social media. I've been following him back as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So definitely, fun environment to network and everything, make some friends, get to showcase your game.
Yep.
In terms of I guess like play testing, did you have like a particular process for getting people to try out your game? Are there any particular things you're looking for when you get people to try out your game? Like, how does it look from behind the scenes when you have people come up and play your game?
Honestly, what I usually start with is asking friends and family to try it. Anyone who has a computer and knows how to play video games, I usually would ask. As long as you trust them with the information in the game and that they won't spoil things for everyone else, I'd say start there. That's why I usually do is I start with close friends and family, essentially. Like if you have a sibling or a best friend who wants to try it, that's what I start out doing. And from there, and what I usually have them do is I just have them play the game a couple times, give any feedback, report any bugs that they find. That's ultimately what I do there.
So it's like generally just a pretty free-form process, yeah?
Yeah, at least for me it is. I know most places do it more structured. I've yet to figure out that structure myself, though.
That's fair. But I take it, when you go to places like AwesomeCon, you tend to get a lot of feedback nonetheless, a lot of very,
Yes. Oh, another thing about going to large conventions is make sure your game works beforehand. I did not have any major bugs happen while playing. There's a couple minor ones. But ultimately, if you have a broken build, it's not going to look good on you.
All right. What did the prep work for the con look like? Because I remember, leading up to the con, you mentioned you had a lot to do to get ready for it, right? So what are some things?
Besides general packing, getting things like banners printed. I had 3 shirts. I made 3 shirts with like plain shirts. And I used iron-on transfers to put the 3 stars on them. Shirts are actually color-coded to their class. I actually had little trading cards printed as promotional giveaways for people who play the game. Whenever they start a playthrough, I give them a card of their starter that they choose. And on the back of that, it's a QR code to download the game. I should have brought it today. I should have done that. Cool.
And I assume you brought these figurines around with you, right?
This is definitely an attention grabber. If you have a 3D printer or access to a 3D printer and you're making a 3D game, highly recommend trying to print out some major things from your game. It definitely is an attention grabber and will help people will make their way to your game, essentially.
I hope the folks here at NJIT, the current students, take advantage of that because I know the Makerspace is a 3D printer for that, right?
Yes.
Speaking of these models, I'm very curious. So you 3D printed these? I assume you hand painted these yourselves?
Yes, they are printed using white PLA filament, and I paint them by hand with acrylics and a paintbrush.
Oh, very nice, very nice. These came out great.
Yeah, some are showing a little bit of wear, particularly the mind bubble down there is a little worn, but
they're well loved. They've seen a lot of cons in their time.
Yes.
Did you get to explore the con at all outside of tabling there?
That's where the idea of bringing more people to your table comes into play.
I see.
I did not really get a chance to properly explore it. Most I got to leave my booth was for just to use the bathroom.
Do you plan on maybe coming back in the future, coming back to AwesomeCon?
If assuming I can get in again, yes. I don't know. I can't remember how competitive it is. I don't know behind the scenes at AwesomeCon how they pick what games to go there. But I would like to go again if they'll have me.
I remember you mentioned it seemed pretty competitive because it was a pretty large scale con and they were only taking what, like 20 games?
28.
20, how many?
I think 28.
28 games? That's like, for looking at the size of the con, that's not a lot of games, which is, or not that it's not a lot of games, but it's pretty tight, their selection process, it seems like, right? Did you have to like prepare anything for it or?
As far as like getting into the convention?
Yeah, like what was that? What did that sort of process look like for you? Like, what did you have to prepare behind the scenes for it?
I submitted details about the game via form, as well as supplying a link to the tech demo. And I got in. That's all I really know from my side of it.
Do you plan on going to any more cons after that one? Any more like large ones?
I'm actually trying to get into another large con, but I don't think I can disclose right now because I'm not confirmed into it yet.
I gotcha. And I assume you, like, same thing as the smaller cons, you find these just by either word of mouth,
research, that sort of thing.
Cool. I had a question. So was it just you who went to the, it was just you went to the con?
I had some family join me there.
I see.
I did have a couple moments where I could, where I'd say my one of my parents or say my brother joined me at my booth. Yeah.
All right. So I guess in the future you want to like bring some. Oh, you know what? I think I remembered what I was going to ask.
Sure.
So I know I asked earlier, like, when did you start going to cons to sort of publicize your game? At what point did you feel like your game was ready to be sort of put forth to the public?
I'd say, like, I can't remember the version number, but I really felt it was really ready once I revamped the combat system. Originally, the combat system looked very different because right now you can see all the fiends walk towards each other on the battlefield to attack.
Yeah.
Originally, it was locked into a first-person view where you could just see the enemy. It did not show the player's fiends at all. And I definitely changed that because it was disappointing for players to not be able to see the fiends they've recruited.
I see. They wanted like a full view of the battlefield to be able to see all these lovely fiends deep inside yourself. Of course. Okay, interesting.
The focus is the fiends, so it does make sense to show them off.
And did you feel like you were ready for AwesomeCon when that opportunity came up?
Before AwesomeCon, I didn't feel like I was ready. When I got there and was showcasing the game, I felt like I was ready. Oof. Imposter syndrome is a lie that comes into your head. That's why it's syndrome. It's not just that you're an imposter. It's like a negative feeling in your head that you don't belong. It's best to push that to the side, especially when you need confidence at those sort of events.
So would you advise, especially I know we have a lot of folks here who are working on larger, longer term projects, maybe with the interest in like publication and all that in the future. Would you recommend that they be on the lookout for these cons and try to showcase there, regardless of where they're at?
I would say not so regardless of where they're at, though. I would say you definitely need a working build. Honestly, the best thing you can bring is probably a vertical slice. Remember what that is? Basically, a small build focusing at least most of the features that you want to have in the game, and it has to be cohesive and make sense.
Okay, so it's kind of like a. It's like for, let's say, like a platformer. I would imagine this would be like one complete level, right?
Like level 1 or a tutorial level and level 1, I'd say, is a good vertical slice there.
Like the full, I would assume like a fully polished level to the extent that you would want it to look like.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I want to talk a little bit. We'll come back, I guess, back to the development of Commanders of the Wicked, but more on sort of the topic of like time management, burnout. 2 years is a long time. I mean, I know it might fly by, but 2 years is quite a long time to be working on a game. Did anything ever sort of get in the way or like slow down your progress working on the game?
I would say yes. Honestly, things like holidays can get in the way a little bit. Though I do appreciate spending time with family, it does detract from the work a little bit. That's really the same with any sort of profession there. Everyone needs a vacation at some point.
Have you ever, sorry.
And I would say self-doubt can also get in the way. That's where going to those meetups with New Jersey game developers can help boost confidence. Seeing what everyone else is doing, getting inspiration from that, having people play your game, that is a great way to boost your confidence again.
I see, sort of making the process into like a social process to be able to, I guess get a look outside of your own two eyes, right?
Mm-hmm. Fair eyes to look at it, yes.
Have you ever been burnt out from working on the project?
Yes, but it doesn't happen very frequently. I have a little bit of a contingency plan for when that happens. Because I'm wearing pretty much all the hats for this development, I just pivot to a different part of development. If I'm burnt out on programming, I switch to monster design. If I'm burnt out on that too, I switch to music, etc.
Oh, so that's sort of like, so would you say that sort of solo development has helped you to stay on the project for the most part?
I mean, it has definitely prolonged the duration of the project, but as far as like how long I've been working on it for, but it does help me when I'm in a slump because I can just pivot to a different part of it that I'm not burnt out on yet.
That makes sense. I do wanna make a note though, because I know I know solo development can be a very intimidating process. A lot of us have probably made games for game jams, started working on personal projects. If you have to put on every hat, it can seem like a lot to learn. Yeah. What do you have to say about that? Do you have any advice for anyone who might be intimidated to work on something on their own?
Honestly, if you feel intimidated by working on something on your own, I'd say if you don't feel like you're ready to work on your own, I'd say try to find a group first. Ultimately, working on your own is not a favorable process when it comes to making a good game. Yes, people have made great games on their own before, yes. Two of the main inspirations I listed, being Scott Cawthon and Toby Fox, worked in small groups or on their own for the most part.
Right.
But ultimately, it is a very intimidating process, and if you're still learning especially, it's good to develop your skills in group settings, I'd say. Or just find someone who's also making a game. Just maybe if you not work on the same project, keep each other in check there. Make sure bounce ideas off each other. Basically, find a coding partner, I'd say.
I see. Cool. Then aside from sort of helping with avoiding burnout, what are some of the other what have been some of the other benefits of working on your own? Because it seems like your plan ultimately is your plan ultimately to be working in a team on a larger scale game?
For a larger scale game, yes. For this one, I'm not completely sure.
So what has been sort of the benefit with working on it on your own so far, aside from keeping the burnout off?
Aside from avoiding burnout, I'd say I don't get into arguments as far as creative decisions go. Having creative control is nice. There is another drawback that I don't always know if a song is a good idea.
I see. But what of the learning process? I mean,
there's a lot I've been learning, and a lot I still have to learn. I would treat myself as a lifelong student. I'd dub myself a lifelong student where I'm always learning things, always have, always will. I'd say that's my philosophy, is just keep learning things and get better at skills.
Would you say that's part of the fun of it?
That is definitely part of the fun of it, at least for me. I know not everyone loves learning as much as breathing, but for me, I love to learn. Learning skills is and things is just, it's one of my favorite things to do, really.
I see. Coming back to burnout a little bit, because you did mention that every so often you did get a little maybe burnt out on the project. How did you sort of get out of those ruts? What did you do to sort of push yourself back to continue working on the project?
Honestly, I say pushing back, trying too hard to push back to it is actually not that great a thing. I say, especially if it's like a personal project, take a break from it for a bit. Take a couple of days off, maybe a week if you need it. But ultimately, don't be afraid to have a weekend. Being a workaholic isn't very healthy all the time. So don't be afraid to take a break every so often. Reward yourself after a long week of work and just relax for a bit. honestly, find something that might inspire you to get back to working on it. Like play a video game you like or something, or play something that inspired your game.
Would you say that taking these breaks is kind of almost like? Would you say that after a break, does it almost like push you harder to get back into it?
Yes, at least for me. I know that playing video games that I love and that inspired this game helps remotivate me, essentially.
Oh, very nice. Um, Let me think. This is all very good advice. Do you have any other sort of advice for students who would be interested in working in a long-term project? I know we've all made a good chunk of us have made game jam games at this point. Game jams are quite nice because they're so short, they're so compact. It's an easy opportunity to get something done real quick. But for people who want to work on something for a longer span of time, do you have any advice in terms of maybe getting started? Because we've talked a lot about sort of maintaining that motivation throughout, but how do you even begin when it can be so daunting in the first place?
Honestly, I'd say one of the best things you can do is uh, find like-minded people that want to make the same game as you. I'd say.
Really?
Again, group settings are easier to make games in. I mean, there is more possibility of clashing for creative control, but it does allow you to make a better game faster.
I see. Kind of like get off the ground running with some other folks
Yeah.
first.
And
Get that
honestly, that's
experience.
good work experience. It's networking as well. And you might all get something that you put on your resume.
I take it did college kind of help you out with that when you were starting out?
Yes, I'd say so. Coming out of high school, I was adamant that I was going to be a solo dev forever because I did not have good experience working in groups in high school and in public school in general. College has helped me a bit with that, where yes, for this project, I'm primarily on my own, but I have become more flexible as far as group projects go.
Okay. Cool. Did I guess what changed that?
Knowing I can't do everything perfectly. Knowing I'm not Superman, I'm not Goku. I can't do everything at full capacity because that is a good way to burn yourself out.
So how do you find your people to work with in that regard?
Um, Honestly, networking, going to networking events, IGDA, usually game developers. There's tons of people that also make games. Finding people that share interests with you may find people that like the same games as you.
How do you know? So then, how do you know? Like when you meet someone while you're networking, how do you know that like this is someone I want to work with? Is that something that just comes with like practice and working with different people, or are
I'd
there things you
say
look for?
I'd say um, start with friends. I'd say like if you have any game dev friends that you like, hey, you want to make a game together? Sure. Honestly, that might be a good idea to start out with.
All right. Outside of working on Commanders of the Wicked, what else do you do as like a game developer or as an artist? Are there any other things you do? Maybe any other like hobbies you have you could like to talk about?
Um, Honestly, 3D printing and painting these figurines is it's tangential, but it is fun when the printer cooperates.
It would be.
I had a string of failed prints over the winter. I think the cold and humidity really messed with it.
Oh yeah, I know that. I know some of them tend to have like a
Yeah,
have a difficult time depending on, especially if it's like dry. I
yeah,
assume,
dry
right?
and cold, dry or humid. Humidity is actually really bad for it. It's pretty fail like I'm like
Oh, when it's.
humid especially.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I think it was the cold this time. Because
It's like
my
a.
parents located in the room that gets cold in the winter.
Oh, so that doesn't. It's like baking something in the oven. Like
Yeah.
even like the tiniest little difference in the atmosphere around might mess up the what's coming out the oven. So kind of I so I take it you enjoy like 3D printing and like painting, and that sort of kind of helped you make this for. I like it. I think it gives your tables and it gives your showcases a lot more personality. I mean, you don't see these very often.
Yeah.
I love these. I love these especially. They seem a lot like D&D minis.
They're a bit too big to be D&D minis, admittedly.
Yeah, they're like D&D like megas or something.
Yeah, megas essentially. They're like The size, the smaller fiends here, they stay on discs that are roughly 2.2 inches in diameter. A D&D mini is usually 1 inch.
You a big fan of D&D out of curiosity?
A bit. I have been trying to get back into tabletop RPGs myself recently. I fell in love with Daggerheart actually. That's a fun one.
I think we have some Daggerheart fans in the back actually. I'm sure a Daggerheart fan might have a few questions.
Is there any elements of like tabletop design that sort of goes into Commander the Wicked? Like, is there any maybe like subconscious, or is there anything in Commander the Wicked that helps with the tabletop?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head that connects the two. Besides just a lot of math involved.
Have any tabletop RPGs kind of inspired the mechanics of your game? Because I know, RPG mechanics are very mathy in addition to like trying to build a good system for that. So
I'd say there's a lot of random variables. So dice throws particularly might be the big thing there.
Oh, I see.
There's fluctuation and random chances.
And I assume that's something that's sort of reflected in the game as well, right?
Yes.
All right.
Particularly things such as evasion and critical hits.
Oh, that comes from like the classic, like your D&D type of TTRPG.
Yes.
I see.
Although I do have it a little differently, where each move in the game has a different critical hit rate for certain classes. For example, Tuffy class fiends, such as Porcupine here, they get sort of advantage for physical attacks, things like basic direct melee attacks. They have a higher crit rate for those. Tricksters such as Laffer here get advantage for status moves and breath attacks, and mages get advantage for spells.
Oh, so it's kind of like it's like an affinity system. Like mages have an affinity for spells, so they should be more likely to hit critical hits on.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, very interesting. Would you want to like maybe show off the game a little bit for folks? I know the demo's a little bit long, but
it might be a bit long. Game Pass character creation itself might take a bit too much time.
I wonder if I can, because I think I might have my save somewhere, so I might be able to see if I can pull up.
I think yours was actually the chapter demo, was it not?
What's up?
Yours was like the full dungeon for.
Yeah.
I'd rather not show that one yet.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's right. That's right.
That's a sneak peek right there. That's.
Ooh, I got special access.
Yes.
But all right. In that case, I think that's pretty much all the questions that I had personally. We're gonna double back to the Q&A form. If anybody wanted to ask any questions, please submit them through the Q&A form. In the meanwhile, I believe some people have started sending in questions, so I'm going to go through them as I see them. All right. I guess Okay, this is a good question. What's sort of your process for what's sort of your like productive process for game development? Like, do you set deadlines for yourself as you're developing?
Not as often as I should. I admittedly am not the best when it comes to managing my time, but I'd say it is something I'm trying to get better at.
All right. Are there any things you wish you did then? Like any specific things you wish you did?
I wish I discovered Trello earlier.
Oh.
Although one thing I have been doing for a while is you have a master spreadsheet that has like all the themed info in the game.
Can we see it?
Spoilers. If I show it, I have to stay at the top of it because you get bottom of the spreadsheet. There's dangerous.
Like all the
top tier ones I'm keeping secret for now.
Of course, I understand.
Yes.
I think I actually did I did get an interesting question sort of related to that because I understand that there's a lot that you don't want to reveal, especially for like story purposes and for like theme design purposes. Have you considered making people sign an NDA for playtesting? Is that something that you already do or are planning on doing?
That's not something I do yet. Currently all the testers I have I really trust, but when I open up more for testing, I am going to probably try to have an NDA.
Have you looked into that process at all?
I have not yet. I still have to do research on that.
All right, gotcha. So what exactly about game development appeals to you so much to the point that you sort of chose to pursue this field in spite of? Because we know, especially right now, game development as a field can be a very difficult thing to get into, especially with indie development. Although indie development has been on the up lately. But, in spite of all that, what about it made you choose to pursue this field in spite of the hardship?
Um, Admittedly, when I was in college, the hardship hadn't really kicked in quite yet. There weren't as many layoffs in the industry when I was in college compared to when I graduated. I graduated at a rather bad time for that.
So what keeps you in the biz?
Honestly, I'm just the love of the game, essentially. Pun intended.
No,
I'm in it for the love of the game.
For the love of the game. All right. Do you have? I remember I showed a couple of screenshots on. I'm gonna keep crossing over that slide every time I flip up and down. I showed a few screenshots. I think of the this is part of the press kit of some of the earlier areas, and it's all very forestry areas. What are your? I asked a lot about fiend design, but what's your sort of philosophy or your plan for environment design? Do you have any particular environments you had planned out or were interested in developing?
I can get into the first three sort of dungeons that I've planned.
Sure.
The first one looks very similar to what's in the demo right now, the Novice Woodlands. It's designed to be more expansive than what's in the demo, in this demo. But it doesn't have. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible while still being interesting. I'm trying to make it too confusing. And honestly, I think one thing that the first two dungeons have in common is the idea of branching paths that converge.
I see.
For example, in the Novice Woodlands, there's a fork in the road that takes you down two very different paths. There's different fiends encountered in each path, and there's also a mini boss down each path. You have to get through before they converge, and then the bosses later on.
Oh, cool. And that's sort of been your. Is that a consistent philosophy for your level design?
Not a consistent one, but it's one of my go-to tricks.
Gotcha. What other sort of philosophies? Because it seems like the game is very dungeon centric, and designing dungeon crawlers or dungeon level layouts can be a little tricky. So what's sort of your what else is in your bag of tricks for level design?
Keeping things interesting, I'd say, is one thing. Making sure the maps look more or less pleasant. They also keeping them diverse from each other. For example, the first dungeon, Novice Woodlands, is like a pine forest. The second one is the Isle of Obsidian, which is like a volcanic island. Very different.
Right from
one has pine trees, the other has palm trees.
It's I feel like we escalated all the way. We got to the center of the island, and it's fire and flame and everything.
Actually, the volcano is dormant.
So
Isle of Obsidian.
That's why, because it's all cooled over.
It's all cooled.
So the contrast is kind of a very vigorous and vibrant forest to something that's very cold and.
It's got a lot of whites and blacks and grays, with the stone of the volcano being gray, the obsidian being black, and the white sand beach.
I see. Oh, do you draw inspiration from places in real life? Because I know black sand beaches are quite nice places to see. So
in this case, it's the white sand beach.
That's true because of the.
But the idea of having a contrast and balance there.
Sorry. So do you draw inspiration from places in real life, or what are the general inspirations for your areas?
I do take inspiration from some real world places. Some are more or less caricatures of biomes, as with Isle of Obsidian. It's not a one-to-one recreation of any real place, but is inspired by certain ideas of places.
I see.
One thing I will say though is that the Novice Woodlands, the pine tree model is inspired by the trees in the Adirondacks up in upstate New York.
All right. Wait, sorry. Could you repeat that for me for a second?
The pine tree models in the Novice Woodlands are based on pine trees that I've found in the Adirondacks in upstate New York.
Oh, I see. These are
family vacations there every year or so.
Oh, so I assume did you model those trees yourself as well?
Yes.
So everything's fully modeled.
Yes. Trees are actually pretty simple because it's more texture work there.
I see, because it's a lot of flat leaves. Yeah, I got it. Just a couple more questions, I think.
Sure.
You mentioned that you spend a lot of time working on this project. How much time do you spend per day or per week working on this game?
Most of my free time is spent on this game. I can't
Wow.
give exact hours because it definitely fluctuates drastically depending on how much free time I actually have. But I'd say maybe like between 65 and 80% of my free time is spent working on this game
Gotcha.
on average.
Um, you mentioned earlier that like Yuji Ori, Scott Cawthon, Toby Fox were some of your main inspirations for becoming a game developer. What would you say you took from each of these people on your journey as you grew to be a game developer? Like, what did you take for your inspirations? Because I know you didn't really take the game design from them, but they are what inspired you to become a game developer.
Let's see. Yuji Horii just made some of my favorite childhood games. At least he set the groundwork from, I don't know how many Dragon Quest games he worked on personally, but I know he started the series. And those were my favorites growing up. So the idea that people can actually make these things was always really cool. Scott Cawthon, Fights Fridays became popular at a time where I was just fed up with group work. And knowing he made those pretty much solo, I was like, hey, wait, you can make these on your own without interacting with people? And Toby Fox just reminded me of that at a time where I was not doing well socially. Because Undertale was made like just a very small team.
So it's very in line, like depending on the different like where you were in life or as a game developer, they kind of came in. It's like you were saying earlier. Which one, like Yuji Horii, what he opened the door?
Yuji Horii opened the door. Scott Cawthon. No, Yuji Horii showed me to the door. I hadn't fully decided on game dev yet. I wasn't even considering it at the time, but it's like something I was aware of. Scott Cawthon opened the door. He showed me, hey, wait, you can do these things. And Toby Fox just shoved me and locked the door behind me. Undertale's really, it's like, okay, this is what I want to do. I'll make things like this.
Then I guess my final question for the day, because we got to wrap up pretty soon, is what are some of your top favorite Fiend designs?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Ultimately, I think my favorite is one I can't actually disclose, as it is one of the final bosses. I can't really get into more than that for that one. Some of my other favorite designs include Jacko Clubs here. Jacko Clubs is one of my favorites there. Along with probably Face Beast, which is the red one with the horns there. Yeah,
I was trying to flip through them. Like, oh.
Face Beast, and I don't know. I don't think this one's on the slideshow, but Cold Shoulder.
I think it was actually. Yeah,
really?
Hold on. There we go.
Oh, yeah, Cold Shoulder there. Yeah,
because he's giving you the cold shoulder.
It's flipped around though. Yeah. The idea is that it's the Cold Shoulder with the huge icicle. I came up with the pun first, and it took forever to come up with the design, and I'm really proud of it. Originally, it actually looked more like a half of what that is. It was like a melting snow sculpture. There was just the arm that was left.
Oh, so it would have just been the cold
arm,
shoulder.
Maybe with like an eye in its hand or its shoulder or something like that there.
I feel like interesting. So these designs kind of really evolve as you kind of come up with them.
Yes, some really change drastically.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Can we get a round of snap laws, please? Thank you so much for coming in. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure to be here.
Folks, if you guys are interested, for those of you who are online, this pod will go up later in the day if you guys want to go back through and see all the interview questions. If anybody else who's here in person has any questions, I assume, are you planning on sticking around a little bit?
I can stick around a little bit, yeah.
All right, so if you guys want to ask any questions for David, we'll be right here. Thank you all for coming to the meeting. Once again, IGDX will be next week. We'll also have the Student Games Mixed Tournament with the esports next week. So, Wednesday. IGDX is Friday, the tournament is Wednesday. I hope to see you guys there, and thank you all for coming.